All right, we're recording. Welcome to the JG Show. We're back with Andrew. Andrew has introduced an amazing guest, Carly. I've heard, is it seven races in 7 days? I have the number seven in my head. Is that right, or is it
Yes.
more? Oh,
Nope.
so I'm excited. I'm excited to hear about what all that means, how that all started. Let's start at the beginning. I mean, you're an endurance racer, right? So,
Correct.
is that Spartan, or is that just like distance marathons, going ultra runs? I can see you have all the medals, you've got all your jewelry behind you. Look at that! Wow. Okay, okay. Let's do a rough count. That's probably over 100 right there. What's that? That's at
Yep.
least
So I would say that my specialty, I love marathons. So I'm at 105 marathons so far.
105 marathons. A
Yes.
marathon. So that's what, 42K, right? That's a full distance marathon. None of the stuff that I do, which is like a 10K or a half marathon, right? And then that's amazing. So where did it all start? Where did this love for marathons come from?
I always tell people that some people go to therapy. I run races. So I really started back in high school. Started my endurance training there. In college, I decided I wanted to start training for my first marathon. And so I've been doing marathons since then.
Amazing. So the first marathon, can you remember the very first one that you did? How did that go?
It was in Utah, and it was it was a lot harder than I anticipated. But it was just, I got that runner's high that everybody talks about. And during it, I told myself I was never going to run one again. And afterwards, I signed up for another one, and kind of the rest is history.
It's addictive, right? It's the endorphin rush goes, and then you're just like, wow, I could do this again. And it's similar to fighting in that sense. I remember when I did my first boxing fight, it was sort of like you do all this preparation and you go through all this anxiety. And then once the fight's over, you figure, the hard part's done. I could just do this again. Let me just repeat, the actual ring time. So yeah, it's an endorphin rush that hits you, gets you motivated to go and run again. Where was your first marathon?
It was in Utah,
location?
Salt Lake City.
Okay. Is that a dry area? A very sort of no?
Kind of. It's just like Colorado in a sense, where you have the mountains. It's pretty dry. Yeah.
So
Carly, how would you say that, like, your preparation from your first marathon going into something that you've never done before, now you run over 100 marathons, like how has your preparation changed? Do you do any of the same things that you did for your first one that you still do now, or is it kind of like ever evolving into, how your body is, your fitness level and stuff now? Like, what would you say is like the same or different?
Yeah. So when I actually really first started, I was strictly just running. I didn't really have any strength training to it, any agility core. So I would say after my first 3 races, I was pretty much I had absolutely no muscle on me. And I was tired all the time. I had a lot of IT band issues, ankle mobility issues. And I had a pretty hurt hip flexor. And so I decided that I had a coach at the time, and he was saying, we need to figure out some strength training that you can get involved with, figure out some more mobility. Cause I was just skin and bones at that point. And so really the big difference from when I first started till now is I have definitely increased my strength training. So I run with a lot more muscle than I did in the past. But back then, it is very similar. I do have a training plan where I'm working on speed work, working on that long distance. But now I have that strength training, gymnastics training, core training involved in that. But I still listen to my same 3 songs that I listened to before I started those races.
Nice.
And then my hydration's the same, but I've definitely changed the way that I eat and stuff. So I would say it's pretty drastic from when I really first started doing these races till now.
Wow. So in terms of the performance level, do you feel like you're you perform at a higher level now, running with more muscle and having more strength training foundation than when you were just a little bit more lean? Like, when you're running, are you always aiming for obviously a time, but is your time getting better? Are you like, do you feel like you kind of like plateaued? Like, I feel like after running so many races, you get to a point where you're kind of just like, this is like the fastest I'm going to go. It can't get much faster than this. Are you still like really pushing it?
Yeah, I'm definitely still pushing it. Right now, I'm trying to break 3 hours.
Wow.
I hit a 3:01 a couple months back. So I'm really kind of chasing that. I've been chasing it for a year, and I never knew like how challenging it would be for like a mindset to take off a minute off your time. But I would say when I like first started, I was sitting around like 3:15, 3:25. And so when I started adding more of the like strength component to it, my times did go down. But now that I'm like evolving around that and having it implemented so much into my training that I rely a lot on it, I've been able to drastically change my times. Now I'm getting faster and faster. It's just different, right? It's just different having, I feel like that type of mass carrying it. But it's been super beneficial. And a lot of times, I'd get fatigued in like mile 21 back in the day, where now it's like I can feel like I'm, relying heavily on muscle instead of like my joints and my Achilles, and seeing a difference in my pain.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, because after that many races, there's a bit of wear and tear, right? So that's where the training comes in. It's no longer just about, running and sort of doing something to get that, that self, that little high you get, right? You want to go competitive. And if you go competitive, there is the knees, right? Your knees are kind of, there's a lot of impact on your knees, consistent. It's not heavy impact like say tennis or basketball, but it's very repetitive, right? So that's what you're sort of watching out for, right? That preventing it to get from, too much damage on your knee, right?
Yeah, and I've changed to like I was like more of a heel striking model, where it was like constantly like putting my heel down first, where now I'm hitting the ball of my foot. And really, like, it was brought to my attention. It's like when you jump rope, you wouldn't just jump rope on your heels. You use the impact of the ball of your foot. And that's also drastically just changed my gait, my cadence from the way that my foot strikes the ground. Because now I'm loading all muscle groups instead of like when you're putting your foot down and having your heel down, it's like this crazy break just that goes straight under your joints. So I practice, and it's called pose. It's pretty known in the running world, but it's changed everything with my races.
And this is something like a racer would need to do if they're going to do like what you're doing, where you're consistently doing long distance races. So yes. it sort of starts as something where, like you said earlier, where, you get an endorphin rush and you enjoy it, and you it's just fulfilling, right? But then you think, okay, if I'm going to go competitive, I now need to train just the way I run, not only to prevent injury, but also to be competitive in this, this space you're in. Like, what's you said it'll break 3 hours. I'm not too familiar. What's like the best time for the races that you do? What's something like all the top guys are doing? Or
well, elite, they're down in like 2 hours and 14 minutes to like 2 hours and 30 minutes. And I'm here just trying to break 3, but it's a big deal for me. I'm trying to hold a pace from like a 6:47 minute mile to a 6:57 minute mile for 26 miles. So that's kind of the type of miles
that's
that
fast.
I'm for.
That is very
fast. They're like 5 minutes to like 5:30 a mile, so it's drastically different.
I saw that you just qualified for the Boston Marathon. Congrats for that. That's an amazing achievement. What is the qualifying time for the Boston Marathon? Isn't it like 3 hours and 30 minutes or something?
Yeah, it's different for every age group. It gets competitive, it seems like, every year. So I think this year for my age group, it was 3:30. But if you qualify, say you qualify at like 3:29, because the field size is so competitive that sometimes they'll have to like take it off of that. So if it's a 3:30, you qualify, but then they might only take individuals that have up to like a 27. They'll take more time off. So it's always good to have like room to spare when you're like qualifying for a race like that.
A little bit of wiggle room. Yeah. And I heard Boston, there's a waiting list for this race, right? Like this is very difficult to be able to get a space in that. Is that right?
Yeah,
or is it just sort of left for the competitive athletes, and then they have like a little, they have some spaces for, your Joe Schmo, right? You kind of, is that how it works?
So Boston, you have to qualify for it. So you have to have specific time requirements in order to get in. They do have a great opportunity where they allow charities to have bibs so people can raise money for those. So those are the only individuals that are actually racing that don't have to qualify.
I see.
It's pretty amazing. When I was living in Boston, like how many people that weren't really big runners, but they would work for charities and nonprofits and raise a ton of money, which is such an amazing thing. And they get the chance to run with like some of these amazing athletes that are actually qualifying for the race. I think Boston, it's got to be one of the most like recognizable and just amazing marathons, right? Just the atmosphere and just like all the hype build up around it.
I would say so. And it's a beautiful race. It's just so different than any of the other races that I've done. And the community is just outstanding. And then it's also a really fast course, and it's really fun to be around, fast individuals that are similar in pace. But yeah, I mean, the community, living in Boston, everyone celebrates that day in their
Boston Marathon Monday. I know people are going to the bars on Boylston at like 9 a.m. waiting for people to cross the finish line.
Yeah.
Nice.
How many times have you ran it?
Must be so fun.
So I've qualified for it 8 times, and I've ran it. This will be my 7th.
Wow.
It's amazing.
So do you have a favorite race? Do you have a marathon that is just your absolute favorite? You would recommend it to anybody? Is that the one?
I mean, I do love that one. I would say, there's so many good ones. So we have one here in Colorado. It's called Colfax Marathon. I don't know what it is, but it was one of my first races that I qualified for Boston at. But it's just a lot of fun. The community of Denver comes out. It's very similar in the sense of Boston. Everyone kind of hangs out around the park. And you just go through different, I feel like just like different areas in Denver that you don't typically get to see during it. I've done it 10 times, and it's just one that every year I'm like so excited to do. So I would definitely say that's probably one of my favorite ones.
Beautiful scenery, right? Very, very nice scenery. What's the weather like in Colorado? That's cold, right? We can get snowing sometimes during the year.
Yeah. I mean, during the summer though, it's nice. Like we average probably like 85. Lately it's been really hot. But in the morning time, I mean, you're running in like the 70s, which is really nice.
That's nice. What would you say because Denver's at a high elevation. So when you're training with, less oxygen really. And when you go to places that are at like sea level, do you feel like you benefit because you train at a high level, or is that like something that you kind of have to like, focus on your breathing a little bit more? What would you say is the biggest adjustment for you?
Like a lot of people like are under that impression when you train at like higher elevation that like sea level is easier. Like a marathon is just as hard. I mean, I can probably breathe better, but it's still so taxing on your body. I would say that I don't notice like a huge like difference. I mean, I definitely notice a difference like when I'll go up to like Breckenridge or Estes Park, and I'll be at like sitting at 8,000 to 10,000 feet. But when I actually go to sea level, I don't notice that drastic of a difference. I guess recovery wise, I feel like I might recover a little bit better, but nothing during my race really changes all that much.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay. So how did this start? The seven marathons in 7 days consecutively, right?
Yeah.
So, and is it all in different places? Where did this challenge come from? What inspired you to do this?
I've been thinking about it for a while. I've done just like a lot of crazy races. And, when I hit 100 marathons, I was like, am I going to retire? Like, am I going to do something different? I did some like Spartan ultras. I did a fun race in Disney World called a Goofy Challenge, where it was a 5K one day, a 10K, a half, and then full. And I loved it. And so I was like, maybe like, I should just do something to go out with like a bang, like just saying that like I did it. And so I was thinking about this and I was like going back and forth, and I decided I woke up one day and I just decided I was going to do it. So it's called the World Marathon. This year they're doing kind of like country versus country. And so I was like, I just want to run for USA. So I decided to do it. We're going to start in Antarctica. From there, we'll go to Cape Town, Perth, Australia. Then we'll go to Dubai, Madrid, Brazil, and then we'll end in Miami.
Wow.
And so it's just 7 days, 7 marathons, and 7 continents. And I'm really excited. I've actually been training really hard for it. I've been incorporating like heat training to hill training, speed training. I've even been getting myself extremely like tired and then running a race. So I drove up to this last marathon I did at 2 a.m. and ran in the morning because I'm just trying to do everything to make myself very tired, trying to figure out hydration levels during traveling. So I've kind of it's been fun. Like training's just been really fun. It's been hard, but it's been really interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know how to start, like in terms of getting a training regimen for that, because like you said, you can kind of make sure that your body physically is prepared, but mentally, I mean, the fatigue and the lack of sleep, and then you're going to have time changes and the stress on the travel, like all of these factors, you have to be thinking about. And it's like, I mean, it sounds like you have a good game plan with like making yourself tired now for some races that you're going to run. But yeah, would you say that, have you talked to other people that have ran the race? Would you say that like maybe fatigue and like the mental aspect is one of the hardest things to overcome, or is it more of a physical challenge?
Yeah.
So I haven't really talked to anyone. I've been reading like, people have journal articles out. A guy wrote a book on it. And it sounds like the majority of it is, people are either A, undertrained for it, or B, it's the mindset going into it. Because it comes with fatigue. Like you're on a jet for, I want to say like 80 or 88 hours, like something really crazy. And if you're not used to like running a race and then having to go sit into a plane, and then you're not used to like trying to figure out like your hydration factor surrounding that, how am I going to eat? Mobility is going to be huge on that. Like pretty much how do you take care of yourself when the majority of it is going to be on a plane? And so I think that's really where like I'm digging in. I feel like my mindset's pretty strong. I mean, I definitely have my days where races seem harder than others. But I do, I think I have a strong mindset. Mine, I think is going to be my hydration, is just making sure I'm on top of that.
Nice.
What about nutrition? Like, I mean, to get like quality like meals in, it's going to be hard to like eat like a fat meal before you like, or after you run, and then before you run again. Like, are you going to be trying to like, fill up like while you're running, not fill up, but like, be intaking some sort of like substantial food, like during, like, have you done that before? Are you planning on really just getting most of your nutrition during your travel time?
I'm not going to change a lot of that, because I think that's kind of what happens is, with races like this, or races in general, people all of a sudden like 2 nights before decide, oh, I need all these carbs, or, oh, I need all this sodium and stuff. And it kind of screws them up during the races. I'm going to stay like pretty similar in everything I do. I still eat super low carb, which sounds really funny, but I feel like a lot of my energy that I get is from protein and fats. I do have more like simple carbs. I incorporate like beets or spinach or those types of things. And so that will be a huge component in my training. Like I said, I'm probably going to increase my electrolytes a lot, my hydration a lot. But as far as my food sources, I'm going to keep them very just consistent. I'm not going to try to overeat to make up for it. And that's why right now I do incorporate, like I said, so much strength training, even before a long run. Like I will lift super heavy, like deadlift, back squat on a Monday, and then I'll have a long run on Tuesday. So my body can feel like that fatigue in my like muscle groups and my legs, especially my glutes. So I have to rely on other things, which would be relying on my pose and relying on my cadence, and really like triggering my mindset to kind of like break through like those hard times.
That's so cool. Yeah. I mean, is anybody able to sign up for this? Is this like an offer? You have like, it's all included, the flights, everything. It's like a package, or is this have you organized the entire thing yourself? No. You've like calculated all the flights and like, okay.
No, it's through an agency. It's called the World Marathon Challenge, and they set up everything.
Right. Okay. So what's the cost on that to jump into something like this? World Marathon.
All inclusive. It's like, I want to say 52,000. I think it is.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. Wow. That's a bit of a challenge. I might do that. That might be a thing I add to my bucket list. I was thinking like when you're on the plane, right? Because it is true. You're sitting on this plane, right? They should have a plane with a little bit of a bigger seat. That's number one for sure. And number two, you got to do those funny plane exercises. You see Chinese people doing, they're always doing the fucking, you got to be doing this. Yeah. Yeah. Cause
I definitely have recovery tools I'll be bringing for sure.
Yeah. Cause they need to guarantee you basically 7 days come hell or high water. So your job is just to run the race as fast as you can, get on the plane, and they're like, next location, let's go. And then you're just like taking gels in and just eating like that's wild. I never knew that this existed. This sounds so fun. World Marathon Challenge.
Are there like, so it's 7 days. Are there any marathons that you're going to be running at like the 24th hour, like middle of the night, or, because I feel like logistically to travel to 7 continents in 7 days, regardless of running a marathon in between, has to be like, how I didn't even know that was possible. So like, what would you say is like the average flight time, 1, and 2, like what is probably the worst time that you're going to be running at?
Right. Well, I would hope that my worst time would be in Antarctica, which is the first one. So I can get that out of the way. Because, I mean, I live in a snowy state, but it's not like I go outside and run on ice for hours, So I think that will be like my most challenging one. And then probably the last one, just because you're at a point, you're either going to do really good because you're so delirious and you want to be done, or it's going to be like, wow, it's super hot and I have 26 miles left and I have to do this, I would say it's either one of those two would probably be my hardest.
Now, are the courses, like, I would imagine that they're putting them, like, are you just running like up and down the tarmac at the airport?
You just need to be in the country. That's all we promised you. That's all we give you. That's all that's on the contract. Check the flyer.
No, they each have different courses. I mean, they've done this, a couple of years. So I think they have them down. I do know in Antarctica, it's just a big loop. I want to say that you run like 2 or 3 times around that. But every other country, it's an actual course. They have staff that's going to be out there setting it up. So it's going to feel like we're actually in a marathon. It's just not going to be a lot of people. The field size, I believe, is between 30 to 50 people. And, with everything kind of going on with this pandemic, I don't know how many people are going to sign up, but I know it's going to be around 30 to like 50.
What's the completion rate? Like,
that's a great question. I actually don't know. I should look.
Yeah, they're like, all right, you start with 30, and it's just like, all right, Jim got left in Antarctica. He missed his flight.
He's gone.
He's gone. And then just like by the time you get to Miami, it's
like 4 people in the plane. You're like, okay.
I feel like hopefully people who are investing in a type of race like this, that it would be a high rate. Because I mean, right, it's a lot of money to be doing a series like this, but it's also such an incredible experience. Never in my life did I think I was going to go run on Antarctica. And so I would hope that people who do sign up, like they're wanting to like complete it. For me, I would love to podium. So I'm like all in. I want to do really well. Like I want to have, my average marathon time be around a 3:20. So like I'm determined to like keep pretty consistent, but I also do know that individuals are probably just doing this as like a lifetime experience.
Yeah. That would be more me. I wouldn't race this. I would just be like, this is so cool. I would do it just to say, right. And when people like, where did you place? I'd be like, okay, yep. So I just ignore the question. But that's interesting. And you said also it's in Dubai, right? So you're going from Antarctica to Dubai. So it's cold. You'd be in a cold climate, and then you go to Dubai and you're in a super dry and you're running on this. Maybe they'd put you on the sand and you're like, oh Jesus, that I think the Dubai one would be the nastiest. That would probably be really where things get rough, right? Because running on sand, it's supposed to take like 80% of your bounce back, your momentum, something like this, some statistic like this. It makes it really tough. We were talking with the Spartan guys. Did you ever try the Spartan? Is that how you and Andrew know each other from Spartan?
Yeah.
What do you think of so you're obviously a marathon runner. Then there's the obstacle racing, the mud, the barbed wire, climbing over obstacles, throwing javelins. I mean, how did you compare these two, in your own sense of sort of a personal challenge?
Right. They're just so different. I mean, they're so different. So for the Spartan races, I really like the ultra ones. I think I just like more of the long distance racing. For me, it's so challenging as far as trail races to go from like the concept of like trying to stay around like a 6:50 to 7-minute mile and have to drastically drop to like, an 8 to 9-minute mile because you're like hiking up hills. And then on top of it, you have to have that stop go mentality, which for me is really hard on my body. Cause like when I stop, like my body instantly like wants to go in that recovery mode. So I noticed with the like Spartan races, it's sometimes hard, especially in the like ultra one, to like keep going for a long period of time. Like I like just running 26 miles and being done. When you're looking at like a 30 mile, 35 mile with so many obstacles, it's like it drags out for a long period of time. But it's just different. It's so different on your mindset. And I love gymnastics. I love strength. So I do enjoy a lot of like, the monkey bars, the rope climbs, bucket carries. Those are a lot of fun. Sandbags.
Yeah. They're very, very different. It's true. The big element would be the stopping, going. And marathon racing is all about momentum. It's that you sort of get into sort of a rhythm with your body and that mantra. And I think that's what, like when I did my first marathon, it was, hey, I got away with it right there. It was a half marathon, maybe. But I remember that like it was just this rhythm that you get into, that once your body kicks into that energy where like your fat as energy, you can actually you feel like you could just keep going because you're not going too fast. You're not going too slow. You're at a pace where you're like on autopilot, so to speak. Right. And I remember feeling like after running for quite a substantial amount of time, I felt like it was just like my head was in like just going through space. I didn't even feel my legs much. I didn't feel like this step. I just felt like this. It was like a wheel. It just kept going. But with Spartan, you have a little bit of a run, then you stop, then you look at an obstacle and you're like, how do we do this? Like, and then you're like, okay. And then you fail at doing it and you try it again. And then you're like, oh, fuck, I got to do the burpees. So it's just stop and go. It's a very different experience, right?
It is.
Extremely different. Yeah. It was fun listening to how they built it all. I think, and that's right. They're doing Abu Dhabi with the sand. So now they're putting in that element into a race with the sand and the dryness and everything. They're trying to really, I mean, that's going to be quite hard. So the 7 days, 7 marathon, when is this? When is this planned for? When's the date set?
Yeah. So we're supposed to take off on February 6th. Now it really depends on the weather in Antarctica. So sometimes there's like windows and you have to be in that window before the wind or the snow gets really terrible. But that's the goal, is to go February 6th. We might have to wait a couple of days. It just kind of really depends. But the nice part about that is like, we really don't have to worry about the travel aspect of it because we're all together on the plane. So if it takes like 1 to 2 days of like waiting, we can all do that together. We meet in Cape Town. We don't even meet in Antarctica. So we meet in Cape Town. We'll stay there as kind of like a hub, and then we'll go to Antarctica, come back and run in Cape Town, and then move down.
Okay. Good luck. That's really exciting. It's very, very
Thank
exciting.
you.
So yeah, to finish off, do you know a guy, I think they call him the Iron Man, like the I think it's James Lawrence. He's done 50. This is some motivation for you. I literally just found out about this guy 2 days ago.
Iron Cowboy or something?
Yeah, Iron Cowboy. 50, yes.
50 marathons, 50 states, 50 days. Was that him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he just completed in June the 100 consecutive full distance triathlons. So 100 days, 100 triathlons. It's in one place, right? So he has a lap pool and he just keeps repeating it for 100 days. So he just finished that. So I was talking to a friend of mine he's a cyclist, and he's training for an Ironman. And I told him, I was like, yeah, Andrew, he's introducing me to his name, Carl, it's 7 days. I was telling him about you, and he's like, oh, do you know this guy, Iron Cowboy? And I was like, tell me about him. And he told me about it. I was like, that's insane. That's crazy, right? That's so crazy. Like, I was like, I think that's as far as that's as much as I've heard, as a human being being pushed like to the ultra limits of endurance. It's got to just be that's some motivation there for you. I 7 days, forget it. That's not happening. I'm not doing that. But you're doing it. You're doing it. And yeah, this guy seems to be the king of distance, of like endurance distance sports. Because that's insane.
I wonder what his mindset's like, because he's chasing something, right? But like for me, like I get to know myself better every time. But at that point, like you've got to be like, you're on a whole nother level.
Yeah. You're not here. You're not like you're not on Earth. This is something. He
must have like such a routine, like plug and play. The guy probably wakes up, just like grabs like his, a ready-made meal, eats, brushes his, like he's probably, just probably like a robot. That's crazy.
Yeah, like you would just have to, I mean, and for me too, I'm like, I don't have a lot of time, so I'm like, where would you find time? I mean, that's just crazy.
That's good right.
That's really inspiring.
Yeah. Absolutely. So go for it. We'll be cheering you on. Go, Carly. This is exciting.
Yeah, Carly, really is there any place that you're going to be like documenting, or like that we can follow you? Is there any going to be like a live stream or anything like that?
Yeah. So I'll be putting it all over my Instagram, but they do, they'll have live footage going constantly in every race that we do. So people can follow.
Awesome. Are you planning on maybe like putting out some content afterwards about your experience, or is there any plans like that?
Yeah, I hope. Yeah.
Nice. Well, good luck.
I want to get to that point.
That's unreal. That's
so exciting. Really exciting. Good job. Yeah. Thanks so much, Andrew, for introducing us. And Carly, thank you so much for taking the time to share this story. It's really motivating. I mean, me, myself, it makes me want to get up and run it. I'll do the treadmill. I'm going to do the treadmill.
I think should sign up for a marathon together.
Yes, Andrew, let's
John,
do this.
What do you think, man?
Let's add it to the list.
You guys to do that.
Let's get this on the list, Andrew.
All right, write it down. It's noted.
It's noted. Our list keeps getting longer and longer. The more people we interview, Jesus.
You'll be doing like 50 triathlons for 50 days.
Yes, man.
No problem.
Oh God. Oh, I think I would die. All right. Peace, guys. Take care. It was great to see you all.
Thank you.
Nice
Good
seeing
luck.
you, Carly. Good luck. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Peace out, John.